Hi there, welcome to another video from Hegarty Maths. It's Mr. Hegarty here, and in this video we're talking about function notation. So let's start with something you already know, a skill I need from you, and actually something that is a function already. So, in each of these three cases, I want you to evaluate y when x is 6. It's a technique called substitution. Pause the video, double check you can do that. Okay, you should have got the answers as follows. Now that skill there, I need you super good at for this video, as this video is basically all about that. Now the funny thing is, y is equal to 2x add 4, and y is equal to 6x subtract 7, and y is equal to 16 subtract 2x, etc. They are all functions, but perhaps we haven't called them functions before. We may have called them straight lines and equations and things like that. They are what's called functions, and I'll go on to explain what a function is. Let's take y is equal to 2x add 3. Now, this is what a function is. Imagine a function, it's just a box, right? And in the box, it's called a function. And what you do to a function is you put something into the function, right? You put in an input. You do various things to it inside the function, right? So whatever you put into it, think of it like a machine. You do various things to it, and outwards comes what's called the output. Right? Now, in this case here, we would putting in x, right? And what will we doing to x? If we put in x to this function, well, the first thing we were doing, we were doubling it, and then what we were doing was adding 3 to that answer, and out the back came what's called y. So we put x in, we doubled it, added 3, and out the other side came y. And that's why you could think of this as a function. It's a rule that you apply to x, and out the other side comes this thing called y. So this here, x, you can think of that as your input, and y, you can think of that as your output. Right? And you know that in particular cases you can put a number in here as well. So say for example you put in 5, you can do 2 multiplied by 5 is 10, add 3 is 13. So the input there was 5, the output was 13. You know that if you put, so that 5, 13 as a coordinates, you know that one's the input, one's the output. Okay? Now, there are other ways of writing this that you have to be familiar with. They mean almost identical, the same thing. So here's another way of writing the exact same thing. Sometimes we don't use y, because y and x, we use them particularly for drawing straight lines and drawing the graphs of them in the xy plane. Sometimes we use f or another letter to denote a function. And this just means here, alright, f is a function that takes input x and outputs, we can even put, and outputs 2x add 3. So all this little notation here just stands for f is a function, it takes an x as its input and it outputs 2x add 3. Alright, but basically it means the same as above. And sometimes we even use a quicker way of saying it. We say f of x equals 2x add 3, and that means the same thing. Here, exactly the same. F is a function that takes our input x and it gives us an output of 2x add 3. Okay? So these are all basically the same way of writing the same thing. Just a couple more things to point out. F of x is equal to 2x add 3. You put in x, you get out 2x add 3. So suppose I worked out f of, let's say, y instead. What do you think I'd get? Well, I'm going to take my input, which this time is y. I'm going to double y and add 3. So I'd just get that. But what if I put in a number this time, let's say 5. I would double 5. I would write 2 bracket 5, add 3, and I would get myself 13. And you can see how similar that was to the previous page when we were substituting in a value in there. It's almost identical. To work out f of a number, you substitute that number in and do the rule to it. One last thing to say, we don't always have to use the letter f for our functions. You may see g of x equals 2x add 3. And again, it stands for a function. G is the letter we use to represent that function, because we might be talking about two functions, so we may need two letters to talk about functions. Right, let's go straight into some examples. If f of x is equal to 11 subtract 2x, evaluate the following. Pause the video and have a go. Right, well, all you've got to do is put your input in as 0 where you see x. So f of 0 is 11 subtract 2 multiplied by 0, 2 multiplied by 0, 0, 11 take away 0 is just 11. Done. Next one, it would be 11 subtract 2 multiplied by 4.5. That's 11 subtract 9, which is 2. And the next one, you substitute in negative 2 for x. That would be 11 subtract 2 multiplied by negative 2. That's going to be 11 subtract 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. 11 subtract negative 4 is like 11 add 4, which is 15. And we're done. Next one. Pause the video, have a go. Slightly different notation here, but we're saying we've got a function such that it puts an input number in of x and it gives you out 4x squared take away 3. So let's work that out. F of 0. Well, we're going to put in 0 in for x, so that's 4, 0 squared take away 3. Remember, by your order of operations, you should do the power first. So 0 squared is 0, and that's 4 multiplied by 0, which is 0. 0 take away 3, and that's negative 3. Put in 2 now, that's going to be 4 brackets 2 squared take away 3. Don't forget to do the 2 squared first. 2 squared is 4, 4 times 4, 16 take away 3, which is 13. And f of negative 2 is going to be 4, negative 2 all squared take away 3. Negative 2 squared is positive 4, so that's 4 multiplied by 4, which is 16 take away 3, which we know from above is 13. Right, next one. Pause the video, have a go at this. It looks awful similar to the one before, other than what are we squaring here? Not the x, but we're squaring the whole expression 4x subtract 3. So let's put 0 in. Keep that bracket from here. 4 multiplied by 0 take away 3 all squared. 4 multiplied by 0 is 0. So 0 take away 3 is negative 3 squared. Negative 3 squared is positive 9. Next one, bracket. 4 multiplied by 2 take away 3 all squared. 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. 8 take away 3 is 5. So this is 5 squared, which is the answer 25. Next one, keep that bracket. 4 multiplied by negative 2 take away 3 all squared. Now 4 multiplied by negative 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 take away 3 is negative 11 squared, which is going to be positive 121. And we're done. Next one, pause the video, have a go. This time we're not using f, we're using g, but we know that can be a function as well. So g of 10 is going to be the square root of 2 multiplied by 10 add 5. 2 times 10 is 20, 20 add 5 is 25, so this is the square root of 25, which is 5, and we're done. Next one, we're going to say this is the square root of 2 multiplied by negative 2 add 5. 2 multiplied by negative 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 add 5 is positive 1, so this is the square root of 1, which is the answer 1. And g of 0, put 0 in here, that's the square root of 2 multiplied by 0 add 5, which is the square root of 5. That there is a surd, and it can't be simplified any further. Leave it like that, don't get the calculator out and do that, leave it exactly like that. Next one, pause the video, have a go. Okay, this time we're going to f of x is 4x subtract 1 divided by x add 2. So f of 0 here, well, it's going to be 4 multiplied by 0 take away 1 divided by 0 add 2. Now 4 times 0 is 0, take away 1 is negative 1, that's negative 1 divided by 2, and negative 1 divided by positive 2 is overall negative a half. Don't decimalize, leave it like that. F of 2, well, that's going to be 4 multiplied by 2 take away 1 divided by 2 add 2. 4 multiplied by 2 is 8, 8 take away 1 is 7, so this is going to be 7 over 4, and you can leave your answer like that. If they asked you to leave it as a mixed number, you could write that. And f of negative 3, we would do 4 multiplied by negative 3 take away 1 divided by negative 3 add 2. So 4 multiplied by negative 3, that's negative 12, take away another 1, that's negative 13. Negative 3 add 2 is negative 1, and negative 13 divided by negative 1 is positive 13, and we're done. Last one for you to have a go at. Pause the video, have a go. Now this time this function is just a little bit more interesting. F of x is you take 5 and you raise it to the power of x. Right, we may not have seen functions like that yet, but we will in the future. And you take away 4 multiplied by x. So f of 0 here is 5 to the power of 0, take away 4 multiplied by 0. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. You should know that from your indices rule. And 4 multiplied by 0 is 0. So the answer to this is just 1. F of 2. Well, that would be 5 to the power of 2 take away 4 multiplied by 2. 5 to the power of 2, 5 squared is 25, take away 8, and 25 take away 8 is 17. And f of negative 1, well, this is 5 to the power of negative 1, right? Take away 4 multiplied by negative 1. Now, we should know anything to the power of negative 1 is 1 over 5 to the power of 1 in this case, so that's 1 over 5. And negative 4 multiplied by negative 1 is going to be positive 4. So you could leave your answer there as 4 and a fifth. Or you could convert it to an improper fraction if you really wanted to as 21 over 5, and we're done. And that's it for this particular video. Thanks loads for watching.